Hi, this is Edward Troxel. In today's tutorial, we're going to get a request from the forum, and that was to add multiple pieces of media to the timeline based upon markers on the timeline. And what we want to do is start at the first marker and place these footage between the markers. And of course, if there's more footage, then they'll just be added at the end. So let's take a look and see how this could work. Here's our standard script that we've been using every time. All of this is all of our standard stuff. We set our Vegas variable. Then I'm going to create a new variable here called file names, and that's going to be the files that we actually import onto the timeline. And then I created me a video track variable because we're going to use that in multiple routines, and I didn't want to pass it between the routines. So we first set our myVegas variable, and then I've created a base path to where the media is that I'm going to look for. You can change this to wherever your media might happen to be located on your hard drive. This is just the default location when the open dialog opens. So then we create a new open file dialog, which I called OFD, and that's just a new open file dialog. And then we're going to set the initial directory to the path that we set up here, so it's the base path. Then we set the filter, and I set it to media files. And I have all kinds of media files listed here. We got JPEG, PNG, GIF, AVI, WMV, M2T, so forth, MP4, and then we have to list them again here. Then if we don't like any of those, then we have the all files option as well. And then we want to set our multi-select equal to true. And then this is just a title for the dialog box, and then we're going to show the dialog box. Now, if the result is OK, if they clicked on open and not close, cancel, then we're going to process the files. So we set file names equal to the ofd.filenames, and that will get them all into this variable that we created up here. Next thing I'm going to do is clear the video track variable by setting it to null. Then for each track, my track in myvegas.project.tracks, if this track is a video track and the track is selected, then that is the track that I'm going to use. And then I will break at this point because I don't want to look. I want to use the first video track. I don't want to look for any additional tracks. If at this point the V track equals null, then we did not find a selected track. So at that point I'm going to create a new video track and add that video track to the project. Then I need to go through and process all of the files that were used, but I'm going to process them based on the markers first. So I'm going to set my current file equal to 0 because that is the 0-based array. So the first file is listed in the 0 location. Then I'm going to go for integer I equals 0 as long as I is less than myvegas.project.markers.count, and I'm going to go with -1. Then I'm going to increment I each time. And then if the current file is greater than the file names.length, then I want to break because I don't have any more files to process. That's in case I have more markers than I have files. And then I'm going to add the file. This is the file I'm going to add, which is file names and the current file. Notice it's in square brackets because this is an array. And then I'm going to add it with the ith marker. And then after that is done, I'm going to increment my file, and I'm using this separate simply because I may have more files than I have markers. After I get done with this loop, I have processed all of the markers. But if I have more files, then I now need to process the rest of the files. So for integer I equals current file, and I is less than file names.length, then I'm going to increment I again, and now we're going to add the file, which is file names, and it's now just I, and then I'm passing it a -1 for the marker number. That way I've got a check in the add file routine. If it's a -1, then I'm not using marker locations anymore. So now let's look at the add file routine. We're passing it a string, which is the file name, and an integer, which is the marker number. First thing I did was create a timecode variable called start position. That is where we want this event to start on the timeline. Then we created another timecode position, which is the length that we want this event to be. Now I'm going to load the media. So I just called it my media equals new media, and we're pulling it from the file name. Now, if the marker number is greater than or equal to 0, what I want to do is set the starting position equal to the marker number for this marker position. So myvegas.project.markers, this marker, and the position. To get the length, I'm going to get my marker.project.markers, and this time marker number plus 1, so I'm getting the next marker, dot position, and then I'm going to subtract the start position, which was the previous marker that we got here. So the length will be the distance between the two markers. Otherwise, my start position, I'm going to just set it to the video track.length. That way it'll be at the end of that video track. And then the length is going to be the length of the media. So if it's an image, it'll be whatever you have set in the preferences. If it's a video, it'll be however long the video was. So now if my media has video, then we're going to get the video stream. If the stream is not null, then we're going to set up a new video event called my new video event. Is a new video event, and it's going to be from the start position, and it's going to be for this length. Then with video track.events.add, we're going to add this new video event to the timeline. Then we're going to create a new take from that stream, and then we're going to add my new video event.takes.add the my new take. So now that video will be placed inside that event. So let's see how this will work. Here we have our Vegas timeline. Let's just add a few markers. So we've added 4 markers to the timeline. Now let's run the script. And let's pick 3 images. As you can see, the 3 images were added between 1 and 2, 2 and 3, and 3 and 4 on the timeline. Now let's do this again, and we will choose 4 images. And so now we added between 1 and 2, between 2 and 3, between 3 and 4, but this last one here is added to the default length of an image. And then if we have even more images, we'll just choose 6 this time. And you can see the last 3 were just the length of the image itself. And finally, if we have multiple tracks here, and we have a track selected, it will add it to only that selected track. So as you can see, adding the items to the timeline is actually a fairly easy project. Putting it between the markers really isn't that difficult either, and we can handle both. If we have fewer images than we have markers, if we have the same number of images as we have markers, if we have more images than we have markers, all of those are accounted for with this script, and so it will make it easy to use on either a new track or a selected track, whichever you want to use. And so I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Let me know if you have any suggestions for new tutorials, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.
Please sign up at www.jettv.com
and subscribe on YouTube to get further notifications on when new videos are presented.